Welcome back. The issue of unemployment and job creation is of major concern in the country. Whose responsibility is it to create jobs? Chief Economist at Econometrix, Dr. Azar Jammine, and Cosatu's parliamentary coordinator, Matthew Parks, join me now. We return to our earlier discussion. And I want to start off with you, Mr. Parks. So in order to achieve that mixed economy that President Cyril Ramaphosa speaks of, we need an enabling policy environment that not only promotes job creation from both the state and the private sector, but policies that enable that fine balance between profitability and growth and obviously looking after our workers. What role can unions play in making sure that the policies put in place by government serve both those needs?
Sure. Look, I think workers and unions do many things. Number one is it's workers' labour, which keeps companies afloat, keeps government working, generates the economy. It's nurses and teachers, police officers, retail workers, cleaners, farm workers who produce the goods of the economy and society at large. Across most of the companies that are listed in the stock market, it is workers' pension and investment funds which are investing in these companies. The Public Investment Corporation is 2.2 trillion rand. It has workers' pension money from the state, unemployment insurance money, and that's the biggest, largest source of investment in the continent. During the COVID-19 2020 period, we released 63 billion rand from the Unemployment Insurance Fund, which is workers' deferred wages, to assist 5.5 million workers who had lost wages or were in danger of losing their jobs, to have money to feed the families and so forth. We've had quite a few engagements as Cosatu, working with our colleagues in government and business and NEDLAC on a variety of measures over the period, from a national minimum wage, which has uplifted the wage of 6 million workers, to the economic recovery and reconstruction plan, the economic and social relief response to COVID-19. We're having quite a few engagements on a policy front on how can we rebuild Eskom. In fact, it was Cosatu which drafted the Eskom Social Compact, which looks at a variety of measures to assist Eskom, because without Eskom functioning fully, without reliable and affordable electricity, there can be no economic recovery. We're having some engagement with government around saving and stabilizing transit and metro rail, because those are critical for jobs in the mining and manufacturing and agricultural sector, and for workers in the city at large to get to their destinations on time. There is other things we're trying to do as Cosatu and other trade union federations. We have a buy local campaign where we're trying to encourage all of our members and the unions to make sure they buy locally produced clothes or cars or furniture or food, because that helps to save and to create more local jobs, be it in manufacturing or clothing or agriculture, etc. We are trying to engage with our pension and investment funds as well to say, can you ramp up investments in the economy? Because every single cent we have helps it. I think the other critical part, which many of our unions have been quite active on, is exposing corruption. Unfortunately, often at the cost of their lives. We have had municipal workers from SAMU exposing corruption. You remember VBS, and they were murdered later. But we're imploring all our members all the time to expose corruption, because that helps to save money for the fiscus. It helps to mean there's more money to invest in public services, in the economy, and so forth. So there's many things we are doing. But of course, given the state of the economy, on many fronts, we need to do much more collectively, because government on its own can do so much, business on its own can do so much, labor on its own can do so much. So that's why Cosatu welcomes the President's call for a social compact. We're keen to have this discussion to see how can we all contribute for the sake of the national interests.
Dr. Jammine, coming to you, and a number of SOEs mentioned there, and they're a huge stumbling block to growth and to job creation. There have been a number of interventions to try and fix them. It doesn't seem like we're getting anywhere, or we're getting there very slowly. Is there any light at the end of the tunnel to turn things around quickly enough to spark growth and adequate job creation in the next year or two?
Yes, it's very sad to see how state-owned enterprises have deteriorated over the past decade. And I think one can draw a direct line between them and the kind of regimes that have been put in place that have tried to exploit the SOEs for the sake of corrupt activities. And unfortunately, the manner in which these organizations have been emaciated, I'm glad to see Cosatu trying its utmost to try and improve Eskom. But these SOEs have been emaciated to such an extent that it will actually take a mammoth effort to try and turn them around. President Ramaphosa hinted at the fact that some of them may not be able to be turned around and need to be discarded. But I don't know that there are any short-term quick fixes other than simply to allocate a whole lot of jobs to people and not be even sure whether that will add any value. And the danger with that is you are likely to spend still more money and will be unsure as to whether you'll get any payback from that. I think it's a multifaceted approach that has to be adopted to turn these SOEs around. Some of them are obviously absolutely critical, such as Eskom and Transnet, where you can't let them just fold. You've got to find ways of actually improving the situation, and the government claims it is looking at ways to do so. One has been somewhat encouraged by some of the moves that government has made in respect of, for example, allowing private corporations to start investing in the generation of their own electricity up to 100 megawatts without having to get a license. The hope is that this will provide some competition for Eskom, and the moment there's competition, that can actually generate more efficiencies within Eskom itself. That is the hope, and it's a policy that can't kill two birds with one stone, because it creates competition and efficiency on the one hand, hopefully, and simultaneously can help to alleviate the shortage of electricity generating capacity. One has also been encouraged by Transnet going out to tender with the private sector to get the private sector to partner with it in improving the port and rail networks of the country and relieving congestion there. Those are the two big steps that have been taken so far that are obvious to try and improve the quality of SOEs. But there are others where one wonders whether they can actually survive. One reads about Denel's workers not having been paid their salaries for 3 or 6 months or whatever. I think that's an absolute disaster. Can an organization like that survive? How do you turn that around?
Any discussion on SOEs is by its very nature incredibly depressing. Let's move on to infrastructure investment. It's a word that's bandied about in any job creation discussion. It sounds great, but in reality, a lot of the money that's meant for infrastructure rebuilding is pumped into people's pockets instead of into creating those valuable jobs. So where do we go to from here, Mr. Parks?
Look, I mean, we support the infrastructure program. There's, on paper, it looks quite good. It's about, I think it's secured about 1.4 trillion rand so far, of 1.6 trillion rand intended so far, and it has huge potential. We do need to invest in infrastructure, which has been wearing at the seams for many years. Many of the projects are quite good, from building roads, investing in energy, in water, sanitation, even in agriculture. That's going to help create jobs, going to help to improve productivity of the economy. It's going to help grow the economy. But as you say, we are quite worried about the issue of corruption. Public procurement in the state has been a cesspool of corruption. We've been engaging with the Minister of Finance and the President about overhauling the public procurement system. We need basically a single, online, transparent public system where anybody can go and see who got which tender, be it the media, be it business person.
I do apologize. I'm going to have to interrupt you there. It's such a complex debate, but we have run out of time this evening. We're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much both for your participation. That was Dr. Azar, Jammine and Matthew Parks. And of course, the job creation debate is going to rage on at every level of South African